everyone, this is week 10 of Women in Ethereum Protocol Cohort 3. And today our special guests are Josh and Mario from Ethereum Foundation. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Happy,
Hello,
Happy to be
thanks
yeah,
for
here.
having us.
happy to see you here. And before we start, I would like to tell you a little bit about what we're doing here on these cohorts. We're trying to onboard fellows, female developers, and to learn more about the protocol, to guide them through their good first issues, and yeah, to learn as much as possible about the protocol. And what about you guys? Could you please introduce yourself, your way to Ethereum protocol? When did you start, and what's your roles?
Sure. My name's Josh. I've been working with BF for about 3-ish years, maybe more now. I came to Ethereum through event production. So my first foray into working with the EF was the first Dev Connect in Amsterdam. I helped to put that event on, and then once finished with that, the protocol support team was reaching out for some assistance with this program that was being dropped by Piper called CDAP, which was the precursor to the protocol fellowship. So I jumped in to help produce that program with Mario, and here we are in our fourth iteration of the EPF as it is with cohort 6 here. Yeah.
What about you,
Um, y-
Mario?
yeah, I joined EF like more than 5 years ago. After I met some people from EF in the hackerspace in Prague, and I've been first helping with like some external research and actually operations within the organization. Before in 2021, we formed the protocol support team that we are part of, and Tim Bako and Trent joined EF. And after that, I started to focus more on the core protocol, helping with at a time with some testing, with some research around the protocol that was needed. And after Piper started the CDAP, after the two cohorts, we took it over with Josh, as you mentioned. So that's our primarily focus now, helping to onboard new core developers, helping to spread the word about the work in the core protocol. And yeah, that's what we are doing here today as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You do an amazing job helping onboard people, and some of us also participated, and that was great time, and we really enjoyed it. And I'm happy to have you here today. So the stage is yours. Tell us, please, about what you have.
Yeah, I guess let me share my screen. Okay, awesome. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, we have a little presentation about the protocol fellowship and the activities that we do, and most importantly, like some recent news and updates and opportunities for you all. So yeah, about the protocol fellowship, as I mentioned, our goal is to help people to become core developers, to motivate and make it easier for people to work on core development. But yeah, before we talk about the core, we need to know what the core is, or like what context of this the protocol is. So I would like to, maybe if we have the audience here, if you guys can speak up or write in the chat. I have this general question that I like to ask, like, what is Ethereum? Because there is no single answer to that, and I'm just curious, like, how you perceive what Ethereum means in single word. How would you describe Ethereum?
Feel
Anyone?
free to turn your mics. Yeah,
Yeah, feel free to
help
speak
this
up, please.
session just be very relaxed. So just don't worry.
Yeah, I would like to hear from you and also activate you a bit. Like, I hope that it's not just passive listening, but people, especially if you participate in the core protocol, you got to be active, self-directed. So give me some. Yeah, world computer is a great answer we got in a chat. Feel free to speak up as well. A single word or something simple to describe Ethereum. I heard a bunch of things. Ethereum is a protocol, it's a blockchain, but I like these, like Ethereum is love, Ethereum is future, right? Yeah, you get these often. So
Yeah, I
um,
also wonder, how do you feel about that after some lessons, after some classes of our cohort? So probably you know more about Ethereum now. So what are your thoughts on it?
I really like nothing serious here, just like one word that comes to your mind when you think of Ethereum.
For me, it's love, definitely. Love and passion.
Nice. That's great. That's lovely. Yeah. Cool. Infrastructure, that's great. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, so we get some more technical one like world computer infrastructure and some EVM. Yeah, that's a great one. So yeah, like from different perspective, people can understand Ethereum from the user facing or from like the philosophical point of view. But here we tend to be more technical. We aim to really describe and touch what Ethereum really is, how it manifests itself in its most physical form. And that's the core development or the core protocol, which is somehow specified and implemented. So the core developers are people who work on the actual Ethereum itself. The clients that run the network, the specification that defines how it works, the tests that make sure that it's all secure. So this is all that the core developers do. And if you've been part of the Women in Protocol study group, I'm sure that you are aware of most of this. But in Ethereum, we have many execution consensus clients, which are what the protocol is, what Ethereum is, right? It's the physical or like the most physical part you can touch. So I would answer that like Ethereum is these clients, or but maybe you could say that Ethereum is specification, right? Because that's where it's specified, or maybe you could say that Ethereum is the EIPs. And this is all worked on by the core developers that tend to research the future upgrades, implement them, test them, and generally improve Ethereum. And without them, Ethereum wouldn't exist. They are the people who move the whole platform forward and maintain it, keep it running. So to get some idea how many people like this there in Protocol Guild alone is 188 people right now. I would say there's at least over 200 contributors across many different teams. So there's like 12 client teams, research team, testing. So it's very decentralized, very distributed across different teams, different organizations, different countries. But it's still relatively small. I mean, it's pretty big if you think about it in context, maybe other blockchains, but it's still relatively small if you think about the impact of the whole Ethereum, right? Like it's a network with so many users and infrastructure and just the volume that it's used for. And our goal is to make this base of the core developers bigger, invite more people to understand the protocol and be able to maintain it. So again, what we are focusing on here is the actual specification of the Ethereum, the execution and consensus clients, which run the chain where the execution happens, the transactions, and the consensus clients that maintain the fork choice and the tip of the chain and their tests. Of course, again, something fundamental for the security and the research that cares about the future. This is the platform that everybody builds on. So the things that you interact with, like some DeFi applications, NFTs, and tooling around this, layer twos, that are built on top of this, right? We are talking about strictly the core, the nucleum, the kernel of the product of the Ethereum, and everything else is built around this. So it's sort of a dependency of everything that's happening. That's why it's so interesting and important. And in terms of core development, that means that we are talking about like low-level development. We are talking about low-level languages. Today we would call them low-level, but I mean things like Go, Rust, Java, right? The implementations that the client software is implemented in. And I've seen that in Protocol Study Group, you've been tackling some EIPs. You understand this already, but people that work on these different EIPs, the research ideas, and they are prototyping and their implementations in the actual core of Ethereum, and the goal to somehow finish the roadmap. So maybe you saw the roadmap of Ethereum. There are many interesting parts to it, many things that need to be improved on, finished in the coming years. So a lot of exciting things that people can not just use in the future or just benefit from, but directly help to contribute to. And that's exciting, not just because you contribute to this big thing, but in this like free and open source nature of Ethereum, it's a very interesting place to work in because it's very different from like some corporate experience. It's very cooperative and ethos driven. Like I mentioned, all of these different client teams, they implement basically the same thing. Their goal is not to compete, but to cooperate, to work together, to improve the infrastructure, even though they are in sort of like, not really competitive state, but in a traditional market, they would be basically competing. But here they are collaborating, learning from each other. So that makes it very special, and I think a great place to work in. So yeah, I mentioned the roadmap. You might know this picture from Vitalik. You can find maybe more updated version on Ethereum org/roadmap. And this was around after the merge, I think, when he said, like, in the context of the roadmap, that it's only about 55% finished. Now it's maybe like 60 or something. But you see, there are many different parts to it, many different these boxes. And I believe that like maybe every box you can dedicate years or months of your work towards to, yeah, a lot of interesting, exciting things to come that are not just on one hand, like they are very interesting features that bring some more functionality to Ethereum, more scaling, can enable whether to onboard new users, make it more secure, and so on. But from the computer science perspective, I would consider many of these being very cool technologies that are just interesting to explore. Like if you're a technical mind, these are many cool rabbit holes to dive into. Yeah, and of course, the outcome is pretty cool. Like the idea, like of all of this being done, and the Ethereum check-in in the future, like it's a beautiful idea. And yeah, we hope to make this happen by bringing more people in. We have these two programs that we work on, and maybe I will hand over to Josh here to talk about the study group and the fellowship. These are two
Yep.
things that we work on together, so we also split the presentation together to have work in
Teamwork.
concert here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is how Ethereum works, collaborate. Vikish, you have a question, right?
Oh yeah, if there are any questions maybe for this part, like this is just an intro about like to give a context to what we are talking about in terms of core development and the core protocol. So if there are any questions for this part before we dive into the specific programs, like please go ahead and ask.
Yes, so there's a slide you shared where you said what Ethereum isn't, and you were explaining, but I was trying to read the slide, but it's got kind of confusing. Yes, so I understand this part where you said what the protocol is, specification, execution clients, and all this, but like if you can just explain the second slide, yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, sorry, I went a bit fast about this, but so the Ethereum itself that when I ask like what is Ethereum, that would be this thing on the left. Like what we consider strictly like the core protocol of Ethereum, it's where it's specified how exactly it's supposed to behave, implementation of this behavior, tests for this behavior, and research for the future improvements of all of this. And now the user-facing part, where again, when you're using DeFi or layer twos and at all, even like languages, they depend on the protocol, but they don't affect it in a way that you can imagine this as a platform. Like the core protocol is a road, and these applications are cars on that road, right? So we are talking about building. We are the road builders doing the dirty work here, and then other people have fancy cars driving on this road. So in this context, Ethereum is this platform that everything else is built on. So we are not talking here about application development, for example, like Solidity. If you're a Solidity developer, it's on the application side. So this is like the core and the application side of Ethereum. And yeah, whether it's just some examples like the applications, like whether it's DeFi, ENS, or some tooling like wallets, for example, because you can use Ethereum with any wallet. You can build any layer twos. You can build, there are many different languages that compile to EVM, right? But the specification of the EVM is a single one that is defined in the core protocol. But what wallet or application you use to interact with this core protocol, with this EVM, it's really up to you. So there's like more freedom to build. And Ethereum has this development tenet, this principle where the core protocol should be sort of minimalistic, sort of like don't provide the end user functionalities and features, just create the platform, just create the basic building blocks that people can use to then build anything they want. So like there is no defined ways how some applications should behave, but there's just the base logic for anybody to be able to build any applications they want, right? But we don't define how the application should look like. So this way it's neutral and open for everyone. Yeah, hope maybe I'm going too far on that, but yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I understood, but it's just last one where you said layer twos are not part of the protocol, but I know that there are a few proposals that are meant for specifically for L2s. So I was just like, wondering
Yeah,
why.
actually, that's a very good point of view to explain this. There are EIPs, ERCs, and RIPs. Well, maybe it's not as clear now, but from this perspective, I would describe it like EIPs are those that care about the core protocol and the networking and the upgrades. And ERCs are those that care about the application layer. And RIPs are standards for the layer 2s. And now layer 2s are basically they're building directly on the Ethereum core. They are copying it in many ways, right? Like these optimistic layer 2s are basically copy of the Ethereum clients with some extra features built on top of it. So there is certain overlap, but Ethereum, as the core as it is, will run without layer 2s. Like it's been working without layer 2s for most of its existence. So it's not necessarily core. It's very similar. Like if you are working on the core development, like many people who've been through these programs that we talk about, like the fellowship, they ended up working on the layer 2s because the infrastructure they use is very similar. It's like direct copy of Ethereum, but it's not, but it's dependent on the protocol. The protocol doesn't depend on the layer 2s. Hope it makes sense.
Yes, yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
this
cool.
is how some of our fellows are a little bit confused about, because they expect from our group, from our cohort, to learn about smart contracts, for example, but this is not about it.
Yeah,
We're all
that's why,
about the
yeah.
protocol.
Yeah, that's why we want to make it clear that like, and I mean, smart contract development is very exciting. Like, definitely go for it. Like, I would say that there's a big difference. It's one of the things that I then mentioned there. Like, it's big responsibility to be a smart contract developer. Like, if you, for example, if you work with real money, if you implement the smart contract for some DeFi applications, people send some of their savings into it. It's a big responsibility to handle a security of an application that lives on Ethereum and it's exposed to everyone to hack on it. But now, from the core development perspective, in core, you are securing not just a single application, but a whole platform and all the applications running, right? So that makes it maybe a bit more challenging, but also a bit more exciting. So it's also a difference there that I would mention. Yeah, I think
Exactly.
we can move on if there are no more questions on for this part.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the two different programs that we run to help onboard more people to work on the core protocol. The two programs are the Protocol Study Group and then the EPF, which is the Ethereum Protocol Fellowship. So we'll start with the study group. The study group just finished up its second iteration, and it's designed to bridge the knowledge gap for people who are interested in learning about the core protocol. So Ethereum's knowledge base is notoriously widespread across many different blogs and platforms and forums and all sorts of different places. And so our intention with the study group is to bring a lot of that knowledge into one place so that it's easier for people who are interested in learning about how Ethereum works to be able to find those resources a little bit easier. So the program this time around was in 24 different sessions. We do it in 90-minute classes, and each of these online classes has its own sort of pre-reading to get you up to speed with some of the terminology and understandings about a particular topic, and then some post-class activities and further research for you to kind of continue to expand your knowledge. We focus these classes on all different aspects of Ethereum. So the execution layer, the consensus layer, the different research topics, how testing works, how the specification works, all of these different sorts of things. And then through the study group, we create a collaborative resource that is at epf.wiki. And it is, this knowledge base that I spoke about a little bit earlier that is constantly growing and evolving and being updated to reflect the current state of Ethereum. The study group, like EPF, is an open and permissionless program. So anybody who is interested in learning about the protocol is welcome to, come join us for this program and learn more about the program and to contribute to the wiki, both to enhance its scope of knowledge as well as to solidify the knowledge that you have or that you've learned about protocol. Generally, we are probably over the course of the next 8 months or so going to work to make this course a little bit more course-like so that anybody at any time can come to epf.wiki and go through this study group course like it is just an online class. And then we will still also hold a synchronous study group in the spring or in the winter, I guess it is, before EPF. Yeah, so let's see, that's that. Some of the topics that we've covered. So in our first iteration of the study group, we focused in three different areas. We provide a overview of all the different areas of the protocol. So an overview of the execution layer, an overview of the consensus layer, overview of testing and the roadmap and these sorts of things. And then after those first 5 weeks or so, we broke the two course lessons into two different tracks. So one is like a development track and one was a research track. So we did some deep dives into what, the different client architectures, both on the execution side and the consensus side, and then also some deep dives into the different areas of research that being worked on at that time. And then so for the second study group, we utilize those first courses to create like a fast tracking. So an intensive 2 weeks or 3 weeks where, once a week you would watch one of these videos and then we would hold an office hours for people to be able to ask questions and discuss about the different topics. And then added some further content, I believe 8 other videos, maybe 10, I can't remember, for the newer topics. So we're constantly expanding the scope of what the study group can offer while utilizing the tools and the resources that are already there. And so, yeah, maybe I'll pause for a question. If anybody has any questions about the study group, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, we can move on to the fellowship.
I've seen some faces from our group during the study group. So raise your hand, who was on the study group? Yeah, Vikash.
Nice.
Yes, yeah, great. That's great. When it normally starts, I think it's February or something like this. Yes.
Yeah, it usually starts in February and it lasts for around two to 2.5 months, depending on how much new content we're offering.
Do you need to apply for this study group or you can just join or how it works?
Nope, you can just join the study group, just hop into the meeting to watch the videos and engage in the Discord server that we have, which I'll show a QR code for a little bit later.
Yeah, I guess study group number 10 will have a lot of materials to learn. And that's
I believe that at some point, there won't be quite as much content to continue to add because we will have exhausted the majority of the content that exists out there, and mostly what we'll be doing is probably talking about the future fork or very recent upgrades that have happened, but still be able to go through the material that we've collected and still be able have a similar impact.
Yeah, Lada has a question. Lada, would you like to ask yourself?
Yeah, so I can just read the question as well. You're asking about, so what I've said is the study group is a somewhat of a preparation for joining the EPF, which is the Protocol Fellowship. So we'll talk a little bit more about what the Protocol Fellowship is after I answer your question, but basically people who come to the fellowship need to have some basic understanding of how the Ethereum protocol works. And so this study group is an opportunity for people who are interested in participating in the fellowship, maybe that have some, existing software engineering skill, but don't necessarily have much knowledge about Ethereum protocol itself, to get to know some more about the protocol, learn about its different parts and different focuses, and so that when they come to the protocol fellowship, they're able to kind of jump in a little bit quicker, or to maybe bolster their application, make it look more appealing for us when we're reviewing applications.
And you also have the recordings, right, of all these sessions. Where can we
Yeah,
find
absolutely.
them? On
Yeah,
EPF on YouTube.
Yep, they're all on epf.wiki. They're also all on YouTube. And as I mentioned before, we are going to be creating more of a succinct and somewhat guided online course with the material that we've collected.
Great, great. Because I used these recordings all the last year. So yeah, they're super helpful.
Nice. Cool. So the Ethereum Protocol Fellowship, or as we call it, EPF, we have Piper and Danny used to say that, Ethereum Contributions are a wide open door, and all you've got to do is take a step through the door. EPF is here to sort of hold your hand, or maybe gently or maybe not so gently push you through that door. So what EPF is a program that essentially makes the process of becoming a core developer, researcher, or contributor easier. It can be very daunting and maybe scary for people who are interested in making contributions to make their first contribution, or maybe start having discussions with people who are developing the core protocol. So we've created this program to help people take their first steps in that process. And so the program is basically designed to mimic the experience of what it's like to be a core developer, meaning it's a very self-directed program. You get to choose what you work on. You need to communicate what you're working on to the greater public. You kind of have to do your own research for the most part. However, there are mentors and others that can help you along the way, maybe unblock some of the roadblocks you might be coming across. But in general, it's a very self-driven process. We do most of the coordination for the program through GitHub, the GitHub repository, ETH-protocol-fellows. You can see all of the previous cohorts there, including the upcoming one. And then we also have a channel in the Ethereum R&D Discord server where we do a lot of conversation, so that it's easy for people who are mentoring you or for you to ask questions. It's all in that same place where core developers are already having conversations. And then we do 2 weekly stand-ups. One is a sort of a what you've been working on over the past week, and then the other is an AMA, which has a variety of different things, but it's usually an hour-long interview or AMA with a core developer, either them shilling a project that they would like worked on, or maybe it's just an open conversation with what it's like to be a core developer, or a bunch of different things. Program is permissionless, so again, anyone can participate, and we do our best to facilitate people to join us, even if they're not selected through the application process. So some of the benefits that come along with the EPF, the biggest one that people tend to say when we ask them at the end of the cohort is that they've been introduced to the developer community, that they've met their mentor, or they've gotten to get to know a client team, or this, and they feel more confident in reaching out to different developers when they have a question, or they have something that they feel like should be implemented, or this sort of thing. We offer a semi-structured process, so while you are kind of doing a lot of this stuff on your own, we have some guide rails in place for you to kind of be able to have some structure to how you start doing your first contributions. Generally, you're able to work about what you're excited about in the core protocol. That may change this year. We are going to be trying to match up fellows a little bit closer with some specific tasks that client devs would like to see happen. But in general, you are able to choose what you want to work on. We offer the mentorship for those who are selected through the application process. There's a financial stipend associated with it. It's in order to enable you to focus on this work and not have to, take some side gigs or other hustle to make your ends meet. And then generally, it provides some experience on what it's like to make contributions to Ethereum. Here's a quick, little rundown of some of the different statistics from the 5th cohort. I'm not going to go over all of those, but you can, take a screenshot, or, take a quick look at it there. I think the big stat here is in our 30-person cohort, we had 7 people at this point hired to client teams. So that's our best number yet for a cohort, and we hope to continue to rise. And again, I'm not going to go over all of these projects, but these were the projects that were worked on during the 5th cohort of the EPF. We also just released a last week a blog post on blog.ethereum.org that kind of lists this and links to all these different projects and gives a little bit of an explanation of what these projects were about. And this is that blog post. All right, so how does the EPF work? I'm going to try to go over this pretty quickly, but basically we have it into 3 phases, 4 actually. So once we go through the application process and a person has been selected or you are electing to join permissionlessly, you'll go through phase 0, which is kind of the study group phase. So we'll encourage you to look at a bunch of that study group content to brush up your knowledge on Ethereum and protocols so that once the cohort starts, you can dive right in to phase 1, which is selecting a project and creating your project proposal. The project proposal is basically a scope and a specification of what you'd like to work on over the 5-month process of the EPF. And then we will have an in-person meeting at ETHCC in Cannes to have an EPF day where all of the fellows will present the projects that they have proposed. Once that's over, phase 2, which is the bulk of the cohort, is basically working on your project, writing these weekly development updates, which allows us to get some insight into your working process and what that's like for you, but also for you to get more experience in what it's like to write technical writing. It's a very important part of working in open source projects, especially with such a distributed and decentralized developer base. It's important for these updates to inform people, inform the public, inform other developers in what you're working on. So it's a skill that and a muscle that we'd like to build with you. And then you'll also be working with your mentor, getting feedback from them, having somewhat regular conversation with them around where you're at and any sort of roadblocks you might be coming across. In addition, we also do the weekly stand-up and office hours, like I was mentioning before. And then in phase 3, we do the presentation phase. So you'll start to wrap up your project, or at least get it to a place where you feel good about ending the cohort with it. Not all projects need to be like fully complete. Oftentimes we overestimate the amount of work we're going to be able to do in that amount of time, or underestimate the scope of the project itself or the different things that you might run into. And then you'll create a final project presentation, which you will present at DEF Connect in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and write a final development update, which will kind of outline your process through this program. So if you would like to join EPF, we just released the applications today, about 2 hours ago, and I think Mario will put a link to that in the chat there. But generally, successful candidates will have some technical foundation and are able to write code and have some software development experience. It's something we're going to focus on a little bit more this cohort, having a stronger software development background. Yeah. And then also having strong written and verbal communications, obviously being self-directed, as this program is very self-driven. Be interested in Ethereum's core and low-level architecture, low-level languages that Mario was talking about earlier. And then generally having a passion for Ethereum and blockchain, having some open source contributions, maybe to different Ethereum repos, or maybe just other open source projects, are all great signals for us, as you can see here. So yeah, if you're interested in joining us in EPF 6, we suggest that you prepare by taking a look at epf.wiki if you have not already. Please take some time to submit your application. The applications are really the only insight we have into who you are, unless you've joined us for the study group or have some other kind of contact with us or other core developers. So, the application is really important for us to get to know who you are and what your development skills like and what your background is. And then, yeah, prepare to take the 5 months from June to mid-November to work with us at EPF. These are some QR codes that we'll go through. This is the application, but you can also find it at the link that both Mario and Meenakshi, I'm sorry, I'm butchering that name. We have up here in the top left the protocol studies GitHub top middle is a Google group, which is basically a mailing list that we send 1 to 2 emails out per year, basically announcing these applications and study group stuff. Top right is the study group Discord. Please join that if you're interested in learning more about the protocol or contributing to epf.wiki, which is the QR code at the bottom center there. So yeah, thank you for taking some time to listen to us about the Protocol Fellowship. We're really excited about what Women in Ethereum Protocol is doing and would like to see as many of you apply as are interested. So that I will stop the sharing, and if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Josh. This is what we've done during the cohort. And if you had this question, why do we have this homework? Why do we have this table? So this is how we would like to prepare you for the EPF if some of you want to join. So feel free to raise your hands. I'm sure you have questions, you're interested.
Hello, please, I have a question. Sorry, I can't raise up my hand. That was my phone. Yeah, thank you, Maria and Josh, for the breakdown. My question as an S fellow is for this upcoming cohort, assuming there is an idea in the idea list for projects requested from clients and all of that, that I am probably interested in, am I free to work on it, even though I'm not a fellow in the fellowship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the projects are all, there and open. Anyone is welcome to work on them. Additionally, we've also put together a website at gfi.bordel.wtf, and this basically scrapes all of the interesting good first issues from different Ethereum repos around the core protocol. So this is also a great place to look for different projects to work on, or at least to start to dip your toes into making contributions.
Thank you, Glory. Vikish, next question from you.
Hi. All right. So during the training, is it going to be like, are we going to be working in a team or like working alone?
Both of those options are open. Usually it will be defined based on the scope of the project, right? So there are some projects that are pretty extensive and would take a couple, 2, 3, sometimes more than that, people to complete it within the scope of the cohort. And then some of the projects are a little smaller and aren't necessarily need that many people to work on it. So it kind of depends both on the scope and how many people are interested in that project. We don't really force either option on you.
Okay, makes sense.
Just in general, I would add that you want to prepare for working alone. Like most of the projects are based on a single person, but even if you're in a team, like you have to be able to do your own research, to work self-directed. Like it's more about being able to work by yourself on your thing, and that comes together with other people. Like you're working on different parts. So just be ready to work by yourself most of the time.
Yeah, that's true. You need to learn a lot, and you need to do it on your own because everyone's busy. So yeah, you have a lot to learn. Luisa, go ahead.
Okay, my question is also still on the project side. So he said that while they are looking at the application, they are looking for people who at least have contributed open source to some sort of like Ethereum. And I was wondering if I've contributed open source to maybe companies that are built on Ethereum in a different, maybe whether it's on the application layer or maybe like Lodestar, does it count?
Yeah, it's certainly making open source contributions to Ethereum is not a requirement. Obviously, not everyone has done that before, especially if you're coming maybe from a different background. That to us is just it's just one signal that it is that you've taken some time to make a contribution or that you're excited about Ethereum, but it's not a requirement at all. And other contributions to other open source projects are also as valid of a signal as contributing to Ethereum.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? IJ, go on.
So my question is, when you said that when you apply, you should say what you want to work on during the the program, but then you said it will be different for this cohort, because this cohort will give people like to work on what the clients need to be done, to be worked on. Yeah. So I'm wondering, when we're applying, so how do we choose? Because you're saying it's a bit different, you'll assign people to the clients. Yeah. I'm just a bit confused on that.
Sure. This is going to be kind of a new thing for us, trying to match a little bit more people with projects that are coming from client teams. That said, it doesn't mean that you will be working on that project, and we likely aren't going to necessarily assign you a project. So if you have something that you're interested in working on, you can put that in the application, and it's just something that we will be taking into consideration. If you're interested in working on something that a client team has proposed, that's great. If you have something that you think needs to be done, that's also great. If it's, yeah. So we're not going to be assigning projects necessarily, and people are still free to work on what they're interested in, but we are probably going to be selecting candidates through the application process more based on their ability to potentially work on things that client teams have requested. Mario, do you have anything to add to that? I don't know how eloquent that was.
Yeah, I think you explained it well. Again, like also to the question before, like generally we are looking for some demonstration of your technical skills, of your development skills, right? Like the ideal candidate is somebody who is eager to work on Ethereum core, but also has experience that makes him ready to dive into it, which means some of these general study group experience with Ethereum itself, but mainly the computer science background that gives you the ability to understand the code base, to be able to work on some issues and get onboarded with new colleagues, with the teams. And this also means that we have the client teams proposing the projects, and like the idea is to make it for them as frictionless as possible, because these core devs, these mentors, they are very busy. They work on their full-time core development tasks, and generally their reason for not hiring new colleagues is that they are just too busy to onboard someone. So we are hoping to get them to give people more time with the stipend, with our help to learn about Ethereum and the project, so then they can get onboarded much more easily, in more self-directed way. And the client team suggest projects which would be ideal to help them, to be beneficial for them, but also should be a good scope that you can work on. So this creates like more tight relationship with the client teams, with the mentors, and I would say that's the easiest path to take. But again, like the fellows have a lot of freedom in what they want to work on, how they want to approach it. Basically, really just up to you to see what is a good approach to your own skills, and yeah, how much time you need for that. Yeah, where can you see these client projects? You can find it in the repo. So right now, the client teams need some time to propose them. There are not many of them. So I would suggest checking it in the previous cohort. So all the cohorts can be found in the GitHub organization. Right here, you can see the cohort 6, which is the next one, but you see cohort 5, cohort 4. And in the projects directory, in each repository, you can find the list of projects, and there is the project ideas. So I'll send you an example. So here are project ideas from the cohort 5, for example. These are proposed by the mentors, so you can see this as an inspiration and to get an idea like what they will want you to work on. But again, like for the cohort 6, you will have the same thing for the cohort 6, but we are still waiting for, it's still early, and they need to take some time to submit all those projects. So.
And I can add for myself that this push in some point makes things easier, because when you just join the program, you can be lost a little bit. Yeah, it's not easy to choose the project. Vikesh, your question?
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand better how the structure of the program is, because, Katia, during our program, we had like issues that we pick from, then like we work on them. If we have any questions, we ask like on the Discord, the server for the project. So is it the same way for this? Because while he was speaking, like he was talking about like the steps and different aspects of the program. So I'm just trying to understand, like, is it going to be the same like the way we did ours?
Well, this is more
Well,
maybe question on Katia, because I'm not exactly sure how
yeah,
the
from
program
my
works,
side.
but
Yeah, it will be more complicated because in our program you work on the good first issue, and during the EPF you will work on some more complicated project. So, but the structure is the same. Yeah, actually you can ask questions in the Discord, and yeah, you will have sessions with Josh and Mario as well, and they will guide you. If you have any questions, they will help you with it.
I mean,
So
from what I've seen from the Women in Protocol program, like you have also like weekly assignments, you have these meetups, and it's divided into cohorts. But in the fellowship, as Josh described, there are these different phases. In the first phase, you choose the project, and it's like a research time. So first month is spent on learning and research, and then it's like 4 months of just working on a project. So the scope of the project is like a 4-month work. It's like I would compare it to like some thesis or something, like a master thesis in university or something like this. So you take like a whole semester or like 4 or 5 months to work on the whole thing. And which we check in weekly. We have a weekly meetings with the other fellows and with the mentors to get some feedback, to talk to each other. But generally, like during this time, and you post weekly updates, you report on your work every week, so other people can learn about it and give you feedback. Yeah, as it was described, but it's more of a marathon than a sprint, right? Like it's really like a more long-term effort in shaping some bigger project, and we have these regular check-ins to keep you going, to give you the resources that you need.
All right, that's beautiful. Thank you.
any other questions? That's a great chance to ask. Yeah, IJ?
So you also mentioned that the people who have been picked, they'll be able to pitch their proposal on FCC. Is this done like physically or virtually?
It'll be in person. So we'll invite everybody who is selected through the application process to join us at ECC, and this is a sponsored trip. So, but unfortunately, it will only be for those who are selected through the application process. We do have a, permissionless portion of the program, and people who are joining in that way, who do good work, constant contributions, and are providing value, can be invited to DevConnect in Argentina, and potentially offered a stipend and other things. But ECC will be only for those selected through the application process, or if you happen to be going anyways, and we would invite you to EPF Day to come present.
Yeah, everyone is welcome there. We are just paying the stipend, the hotel, and the trip for the people who are initially selected. And then they spend the first 3-4 weeks choosing the project, writing a proposal, which is like a concrete specification. This is what I'm going to work on next 4 months. And they present this in front of other people to, share it and to get feedback. So yeah, that's and again, like you can meet us, you can meet other developers, you can meet EPF people at different conferences throughout the 5 months. There's going to be a ton of events happening around the world. So, if there is something in your area, you can also have like a small EPF get together, but it's in a more decentralized way. But we have these in ECC and then in DevConnect, yeah.
And you also have some cases when even people join permissionlessly and they are really dedicated to their projects, and the projects are helpful for client teams. They can also participate, right?
Yeah, of course. Like people who, again, like there is the small selection of candidates in the initial phase where we choose like a couple of people, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 out of like hundreds of applications. But we are not the best at choosing, who is the best developer. It really depends how you presented yourself, what was our understanding of your skills, and we might be wrong. We are not, expert on this, so we cannot really see the future. So you can just come and demonstrate your skills. You can just come, and as a permissionlessly, you think that we are wrong, that you deserve the stipend. So you come and you do the great job. You start working on some project, and as you open PRs, we see that you do a really good job. And after a couple of weeks or months, you can receive the stipend for the fellowship, and then come to DevConnect in Istanbul. So there will be more people in the end. And also the DevConnect in Istanbul will have very good visa policy. Many people cannot travel to France, to Europe. So it will be much easier to get together there and meet everyone.
But the main point is your true interest to the protocol. That's important.
Yes, Argentina, not Istanbul.
Oh yeah, sorry. I just like uh still live in the past. Yeah. And anyone who is really dedicated to working on the protocol and but is in the right place to do it, like demonstrates the skill and the dedication, like that's open floor for anyone to come.
We have a question in the chat. What's the most challenging aspect of making changes to Ethereum protocol?
But unfortunately, I have another meeting I have to jump off, but I will suggest if you do have any further questions or comments, we are holding a town hall on Monday at 1400 UTC, and there is links to that meeting in the blog post announcement if you're interested and have further questions. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us, and we hope to see some of your applications in the in for EPF6. All right, thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Josh. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Josh. Yeah, bye-bye. By the way, regarding the visa, the Argentina will have even better policies than Visa because they have like a special visa policy for DevConnect itself, so it should be very easy to
Wow.
get there for literally anyone. But yeah, about the most challenging aspect about it, it's a hard question because I think the whole thing is pretty challenging. I don't even know where to start. Like there are many parts to it. Like first is the technical side, right? Like the first challenge is to do the research to identify something that's important to do. Yeah, and on one hand, it's a challenge, like you to understand the protocol and to identify like what's a good upgrade. But it's not really such a big deal if you understand the protocol. If you are between these core developers, if you ask any of them, they will tell you like 10 things that should be done right now, right? The main challenge here is to actually get it done, to actually get it through. So there is a whole process of the EIP, then the ACD, right? So it goes through some drafts and proposal. It's discussed in research, in ETH magicians, and then eventually it brings up on the core devs. And there it needs some champion, somebody to really push this idea, to figure out the bugs, to solve them, and to make sure that this gets eventually into the protocol. But this is something that can be a long process, like we talk about, like this big topic of today's protocol development is EOF, which has been works for like 5-6 years now and still not activated. It's probably going to take another year or so to get it done, or maybe hopefully less, but still it's a big thing. So really like this whole process to get through the priorities. So the protocol work needs to prioritize what is the most important and most effective way how to implement the change, right? So again, like EOF, there's many dependencies, there is many things that need to be changed. So really to figure out how these priorities fit together and discuss it with all these like 15 different, 20 different teams that have something to say about it. So this whole coordination and a prioritization game, which is getting improved these days actually with some changes in the ACD process, but I think that's the tough part. So making changes to the Ethereum protocol. Yeah, on one hand, the technical side, on one hand, like just the whole coordination and this ACD game that you need to play. But again, like this is something that's more about some big EIP, some changes to the protocol as you ask, but not necessarily changes in the clients. Like you come to EPF and you work on something that's going to be done in the 5 months. And the challenge there is that you are working on something that's like some part of the client that is maybe not critical, or it's part of some future hard fork, or you're prototyping something. And the challenge there is being able to deliver good quality code and be able to communicate what you are doing and get reviews. So it's more about like, it's not a challenge of like pushing the whole EAP or anything, but yeah. Yeah, there is Coco is asking about the visa policy. I'm not sure how much of this info is public, to be honest, actually. Maybe it's going to take a while till the DevConnect team publishes it. Let me check the website. It will be all public on the DevConnect website. Once the tickets are available, they will provide the guidance for visa. So that's mentioned in the website. So if it's not like very much rush, I think you can wait for the tickets to be available.
That's great to hear that DevConnect will be even more available for people from many countries.
The last time I heard it should be available for the people from Africa, especially, and so on. Like they have some good process for this, but that's what I was told. Between DevConnect team working on this, I fully trust them. They are amazing, but like give them time to publish this and publish the tickets. It might take some time, but I hope that they consider that people need some time for the process, and they will put it out in time. Yeah.
I would like to also add to the challenges that you need to be disciplined. You will have weekly reports and GitHub updates. So kind of what we did in our cohort, but more complicated, I would say. So get ready to this as well.
Yeah, totally. Like as I mentioned, like being self-directed, being able to like work on your thing without hand-holding, without like direct guidance and so on. Like you really need to be able to do your thing and stay motivated. Like yeah, I think like the big thing, especially like with people who don't receive the stipend, but even with some that does though that do, the issue is that they just drop out, right? Like they face some issues, they lose the motivation. Then after a couple of weeks, they don't really contribute anymore. So yeah, just we provide this community where we have the weekly meetups and weekly updates. And for some people this works, but still you need to have the internal motivation that keeps you going, that really makes it happen for you. Yeah.
And maybe even people with stipends drop out. I'm not sure, but it depends on their motivation. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Sometimes, yeah.
as I said, like also people with stipend or people who are permissionless, but it depends on the situation. Like there are people who have, some personal trouble. They can't work on this anymore, of course. But generally, like for many people, it's just having the right motivation and also the right goals to be able to keep them going.
Yeah, this is definitely the hard work, but it worth it, believe me. Any other questions tomorrow? We are wrapping up, but if you have the last question, feel free to raise your hand.
Please do ask.
Don't be shy. EPF is not for shy.
That's what I was always saying at these calls, like this EPF call where we have like 40 people in the room and we have some great core developer there, and they please like ask some questions, don't be shy. So it became kind of a meme in the third cohort when I kept repeating like, don't be shy.
Yeah, we're teaching you here not to be shy. Ask questions. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mario. This was really helpful, and I hope our participants are interested, and we also can provide you more info, maybe share our experience for the next call if you're interested. Yeah, we can do it as well. And it's a big pleasure for me personally to have you here. It's our guest.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a pleasure to be here, Katia. And honestly, like it's also a pleasure to have you, to see you doing the study group for women, doing this whole effort. Like, I mean, you did a great job in the EPF, and it's amazing that you stick around the protocol and you continue with all of this. And I really appreciate you inviting me, having me here. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for all of your attention. I hope to have a bunch of you come into the EPF, as Josh said. I hope some of you can follow the study group or even join the EPF. But generally, we need more feminine energy, we need more diversity, we need more different backgrounds in the core protocol. So please don't hesitate to join us. We definitely would love to have you there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next session. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks again. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have anything. I'm in the Discord channel of yours, but also in the EPS Discord, or email mario.havel@ethereum.org. So always feel free to reach out if you have any concerns. And yeah.